now tuned in to the cold, hard truth. Cayman's #1 hard-hitting live podcast show, where we feature some straightforward conversations on political, social, and celebrity news and all things happening in the Cayman Islands and around the world. This show was created to give the people a voice and a means of being involved and informed without any filters. Sometimes it gets crazy, but we always keep it real. We bring you the tea, piping hot, so grab your favorite beverage and join the conversation via WhatsApp at 324-1612. Email tips at caymanmarlroad.com. Now, here's your host, Sandy Hill, broadcasting live from the beautiful Cayman Islands.
Miracle Brokers International is a shipping, moving, and logistics company. You get all our expertise in one stop. Our motto is shop, ship, and save. All shipments are important to MBI and will track your items during shipment, clear through customs on arrival, and deliver to your door. MBI will spend the time in lines to get your cargo for you so you can be more productive with your time. Miracle Brokers, the solution broker. 345-925-5989 or miraclebrokers.com.
All right, folks, how about that? I think you can hear me now. Can you hear me now? All right, I had someone messing around with my setup last night, so my apologies. I think you should be able to hear me now. All right, so you may have to reset. Okay, good. Irvin confirms. So if you can't hear me, just go out and then go back in and kind of refresh, and you should be able to hear me now. So sorry about that, guys. Okay, so let's start over. Good morning, everyone. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. It is Tuesday, August the 25th. I was just saying that we have a press conference today at 2 p.m. This is the first time that we've had a press conference in a minute. I think it's been at least 5 weeks that we've not heard from the premier in terms of a press conference. We got really used to having these like daily press conferences. And of course, 5 weeks is a really long time during COVID to have absolutely no press conferences at all. So we are very, very interested in what the premier has to say. I think a lot of us want to know, inquiring minds want to know, what is going to be on the table for discussion this afternoon. Is it just going to be COVID related stuff, or can we expect to hear a little bit more about the political shenanigans that have been going on? I was actually saying that on Friday, the opposition issued a statement telling the premier that he needs to come clean, implying that there's so much more that the premier has going on in the background about the domestic partnership bill that he has allegedly not told the people of the Cayman Islands. And so they're asking him to come clean. He has largely remained silent on the issue. Of course, we know that last week there were reports in circulation that his government was potentially on the verge of being pulled apart in a potential coup where the opposition would have taken control of the government because some of his members were prepared to jump ship. So far, that has not happened. In fact, his members have held firm to not doing anything. And so, inquiring minds are very, very curious as to how this will all play out. I said from last week, regardless of what you think of the government, making this sort of decision with 9 months to go until a general election is, in my opinion, actually very, very reckless and not something that we, the people, should be about for no reason, to be quite frank and honest. So I will invite your comments a little bit later on. We can talk about some of those things. I do see for some reason that looks like we're having a little bit of issue with Google search there for a second. So let me just check and see what's going on. So we've got a regional correspondent who's going to be joining us this morning. So thank you so much to Danica, who is in Kingston, Jamaica. We're going to get a little bit of an update of what's happening on Jamrock and with our neighbors there. They've got a lot going on, an actual election. They've got oh my gosh, so much is going on. An outbreak of COVID, like the numbers are really starting to increase now. They opened their borders in July. There was Usain Bolt yesterday having a very interesting situation. So we're going to jump into conversations with her about a couple different things. She should be joining us here shortly this morning, which reminds me, let me send her the invitation link so she can actually join us. That would be helpful, folks. Yes. So she's going to jump into the conversation and we're going to get a little bit of a highlight into what she has got going on or what the country of Jamaica has got going on. I think it will definitely be interesting. So in terms of news, we do have a couple news stories that we're going to be having a look at here as well. And of course, Flo has a new promotion that they have on that looks super, super interesting. And it's a way for you to win a vacation. And listen to me, who doesn't need a vacation right now? I mean, seriously, I think we're all in the running for that. in terms of her stress level, but we'll find out what's required in order for you to be entered. So how are you guys? Let me just have a quick look here. We've got Irvelin, who is tuned in. Junior was here for it. He was the first to comment on our show this morning. Amanda is also joining us. Miss Joy, Olivia, Lisette, and Karen. Thank you so much, guys. Always glad to see our regulars here. Siobhan, I have not seen you in a minute. I hope you're doing well. Gadiel is a regular, but not every day kind of regular. So I think Gadiel kind of pops in and out of the live stream. So thank you, Gadiel, for joining us this morning. Petrula is also here. Thank you guys so much for letting me know that there's a mic issue. Jasmine. Who else have we got here? Yeah, so a lot of regulars. Virka is here. Thank you so much. Vivian, happy birthday, by the way. Morna, thank you for tuning in. And yes, it is a beautiful Tuesday here in the Cayman Islands. And guess what, folks? I haven't looked out the window yet because I still got the blinds down, but I think we are all clear in terms of thunderstorm, tropical storm, Laura, and we have beautiful blue skies ahead for most of today. So I think the weather actually is shaping up to be looking pretty good. And are we not incredibly blessed and thankful for the fact that we had a little bit of rain from Laura, but just enough to make the ground nice and wet. And you know what is so ironic? Everything, you got to look for a little bit of positivity in these things, because I actually took the opportunity yesterday evening after work to go out. When I say after work, like when you work for yourself, there is no such thing as after work, but you know what I mean? After 5, I should say. I took the opportunity to go and put out some yard signs, because Cayman has some of the toughest, roughest, ground, I think, in the world. Like, have you ever tried to stick anything in the ground? It's like rock solid. So anytime it rains, it's an opportunity for me to put out some yard signs, because the ground gets a little bit soggy and it's easier to just put those stakes into the ground. So wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Big shout out to Jake. I saw Jake yesterday when I went and did my physio. Jake was getting his treatments on as well. So Jake is looking good. Every morning, Jake is in the gym and he is watching us, and we can see that that is paying off for Jake. Jake is getting all buffed up and slimmed down. So congratulations, Jake. Way to go. There's some of us who really need to start. So I'm not calling any names, but soon come. So that was one of my birthday promises to myself. I'm going to get in that gym and start walking on the treadmill or the elliptical machine. So I've got 2 choices and I just need to do it. Like, seriously. So big congratulations to Princess Cornally. Now, Princess is one of my Facebook friends, and lovely young lady. Her and her husband have actually moved to Italy with their children. And Princess has lost a lot of weight recently. Princess looks amazing. I saw her before and after pictures, and I was just like, whoa, Princess, you have really been working hard. So I'm going to show some of her pictures later, because Princess just looks like off the chain good. So we want to always support and congratulate each other when we are making the healthy choices and certainly doing the right thing for our overall health and well-being. So Princess looks awesome. Ricky, good morning. Thank you so much. Okay. So Ricky says that at his job, Pane and Pasta in Cayman Bay, they are looking for a dishwasher and server, either status holders or PR. And hopefully that means Caymanians, because technically Caymanians are neither status holders or PR. They're just Caymanians. So so they're hiring. Pane and Pasta. Where's that restaurant in Cayman Bay, by the way? I haven't seen it yet. I feel like sometimes you go to Cayman Bay and you could walk around all the time and like totally miss stuff. For me, I kind of go to the same restaurants all the time. But the other day I went to Aqua for the first time since Agua has moved there. Is it Aqua or Agua? I think it's Agua. And I tell you what, it was really a nice experience. And I hadn't been there since they moved because remember they were in Galleria Plaza. Yes. And they moved into Cayman Bay. And so it was an opportunity to check out a new restaurant. But I tend to go to like the same one restaurant all the time. So on Friday, I ended up going to the Indian restaurant, which is called, oh gosh, remind me of the name of the Indian restaurant. Pani, I think. Anyway, hadn't been there in a while, had not actually had Indian food in quite some time. So that was really delicious and that was really good. And good morning, Dawn. Good morning, Debbie and Louie. Miss Janet, thank you so much for tuning in. And Odette, thank you for joining us as well. So if you guys notice this week, I've actually stopped streaming to my personal page because I realized that people were actually getting confused. When I was streaming to my personal page, they thought it was this stream. It's the same stream. It's just cross streaming is what we call it. But they thought they were here with everyone else. And so what was happening is they were getting a little bit confused and over there trying to have a conversation with people. And there was only like a handful of people on that personal stream. So we've cut that, got everybody back here in one location, kind of one big happy family. And I see that there's 70 of you now on the stream for Facebook and there's 4 for YouTube. So the YouTube folks, you know, they're hanging in there. We continue to cross stream it to YouTube, despite the fact that we don't have a really huge audience on YouTube. I do kind of feel like sometimes there are people who just don't have Facebook and they want to be in on the YouTube chat and the YouTube conversation. So not a problem. All right. So good morning to everyone. If you're just joining us, we are waiting on Danica, our regional correspondent, to join us this morning. She hasn't been on in a couple months. I think she came on just when we announced that she was going to be doing this, which was a number of months ago. So we'll touch bases with her, see what's going on. Listen, there's a lot going on in the Caribbean, including Trinidad has a bunch of new cases and they've shut back down. They've gone back into, I think, almost complete lockdown. Jamaica now has a curfew again. So they have introduced new measures also. Things are not looking good for Jamaica. I think Jamaica is going to lock down the country after the election. So the election is coming up on September the 3rd, which is that next week? Thursday. That's that. Yeah, next week, Thursday. So they've got a little bit more than a week to go. And we'll hear exactly what is going to happen then. Even their premier has made, or their prime minister, sorry. He's called the Prime Minister of Jamaica. He has made a couple decisions in terms of his campaigning. So he will not be out on the campaign trail because, of course, that's encouraging people to come out and about in the streets. And I'm afraid that, you know, people are just thinking, oh, let's go out and campaign. But at the end of the day, that campaigning is spreading this virus way more than it should. And let's be honest, if Jamaica has 1,500 cases or whatever the current number is of confirmed COVID cases, you can like times that by literally 100 because there are lots of people who would not be getting tested. And there are also people who are asymptomatic or who are still waiting on test results from over a month ago from a lab that, they have been behind on submitting the testing results, which is a little bit crazy, but that's what's happening. So we can certainly speak with Danica some of those topical issues when she jumps into the conversation this morning. I'm assuming she's still getting up and about, and we'll be hearing from her in due course. So thank you guys so much again for joining the conversation. What else is going on in the world? So in the world of politics, Um, Quite an interesting situation has been going on in the US. We know the Democrats had their national convention, and now this week it's the Republicans' turn, and they're having their national convention. So I think it's now day 2 of the Republican National Convention. And the First Lady is slated to speak this evening or today, however they're doing it, at their event. So interesting. Some people claim that she's the best First Lady that they have ever had, and that she's beautiful. And I guess to them, that must be the most important topic, or the most important attribute is her physical beauty. They say beauty is in the eye of the beholder, so we will leave it at that. I think that there's character components that make someone beautiful or not, that maybe as a world we need to consider a little bit more. So just having a quick look here at a few other things. So as you guys know, this week we are focusing on, as part of our discussion, sort of things that people could be a bit more concerned about when it comes to protesting. So over the weekend, we had a protest. There were some persons who attended that, and they're protesting against the domestic partnership bill. And so one of the interesting things about that is there are numerous topics in this country that people do not appear to be ready to protest. And so their inability to protest these issues doesn't mean that we cannot speak on these issues. They are extremely important. And so I wish to address some of those this week. So yesterday we talked about deadbeat dads, for example. That is a very, very important topic that impacts our social fiber here in this country. And I would say, the fallout from that is often significant for the children that are impacted. And here are some additional social topics. So today we're going to talk somewhat about child abuse and sex offenders. Tomorrow is Cayman's dismal education system. Thursday will be mental health. And then Friday is Cayman's environment. And we're welcoming you all to join the conversations on those topics. Now, today, to be quite frank, we're not going to have a full show. I do have to cut out a little bit early because I'm headed back to court. So as you guys know, the DPP and I are doing a bit of a dance. So we're getting ready for round 2 of 2020 because they're actually bringing 2 more cases against me for 2020. So the first one was the Matthew Leslie one, which they won. And we're looking at our appeal options in terms of that for sure. And the second one, they're bringing these 2 at the same time. And I don't quite know if they're trying to combine them or what they're doing. But at the end of the day, I was supposed to be able to get the files in advance of today's hearing, but that has not happened. So I show up and I explain to the judge that once again, the DPP's office claims that they were going to have these files ready. And when I called, no one seems to know anything about the files. So what can I do? Not my job, but I still have to show up to court. So I've got to go to court today. And as you guys remember last time, I totally forgot to go to court. So we don't want a rehashing of that. So hopefully we can start to make some headway, because every time they delay this, I feel very, very frustrated by the delays, because they put me in a predicament where they drag it on for months and months and months and months, which evidently they have no issue doing, because they've got nothing but time on their hands to deal with this sort of stuff, whereas the rest of us are actually trying to live our lives. So we'll see how that goes. I shall keep you guys updated on how we progress. So Danica is saying to give her 10 minutes, so she's not quite ready yet. And we'll give her a minute to join in a conversation. So no problem. All right, good folks. So let's keep it rolling. Just looking at a few other things. Now, did you guys miss the story on Friday? Was it Friday that it went up? I think so. About Scotiabank. Larry, good morning to you, my dear. About Scotiabank being fined $127 million. This is the Bank of Nova Scotia, by the Americans. And folks, if you missed this story, this is like a little crazy, and explains why that same day on Friday, staff at Scotia were told that they'll be getting no bonuses this year. Imagine, they're working extra hard. COVID has hit everyone. And you're now being told the good news that you will not be receiving any bonuses in 2020. And I'm going to put my neck out there and say, honestly, if you work for Scotiabank, you probably are not going to receive a bonus for many years to come. Because that $127 million, they're now going to pull that from the bonus pool. And it's because of people and their slackness. So this is actually two U.S. agencies covering 3 different agreements have gotten Scotiabank to admit, and this is actually a settlement agreement, believe it or not. So this $127 million payout is settling both civil and criminal allegations against them for what the U.S. says was basically price fixing or price manipulations on the metals market. So, whoa, this is not good at all. But it is what it is. And apparently, Scotiabank has been up to a couple of things. So, manipulating the metals markets for over 8 years. So some of their employees were doing this. The part that they're holding the bank responsible for is not only the fact that their employees were doing it, but it was actually brought to the attention of the bank previously, and the bank agreed that there were certain things that they would have given by way of information. And as it turns out, the bank actually was playing around with the authorities in the US. And I suspect that's not a good idea. So the US Department of Justice and the US Commodity Futures Trading Commission, called the CFT, brokered this agreement on Wednesday, that basically they're going to pay $127 million in fines to settle both civil and criminal allegations in 3 separate agreements. So I actually had the agreements here somewhere. I don't know where the papers are now, but reading them was very, very interesting. And basically, they're fining them for failing to detect and stop traders from making fake trades designed to manipulate prices for over a decade. And the bank has agreed to a deferred prosecution agreement to settle separate probes by the 2 agencies. So initially, they were fined $800,000 back in 2018, I think it was. And had they behaved themselves at that point, this would have been it. However, the CFTC claims then that the company made false statements during their investigation, which is now resulting in an additional fine of over $77 million in payout. So not good. And of course, although this is not directly the Cayman branches here, this is a Canadian bank. The Bank of Nova Scotia is all over the world, and that will impact everyone who works for that organization. Sorry, not just the not just the overseas branches. So forgive me, I'm feeling a little bit congested here this morning as well. This weather is kind of moving on. I'm hoping that my sinuses will also clear up as a result. So if you've not had an opportunity to visit those post stories as yet, please, by all means, check them out, because it is very, very interesting in terms of what the US authorities were alleging to have taken place. And these documents are readily available online, so you must check them out and see for yourselves. And let's just say that the deceit and manipulation and hiding of documents and all this stuff that you don't honestly expect to still be happening in 2020 by these corporate entities is very much happening. And they don't seem to care. Yeah. Yep. That's what it is, folks. So now they're going to have to adhere to several let me just tell you. They're going to have to adhere to several restrictions and for the next 3 years they have to have a compliance person in place, a client compliance program to monitor this situation. And there's an ongoing investigation, and Scotia has agreed yet again that they will cooperate with any ongoing investigations and prosecutions. So the individual traders will actually be sentenced at a later date. But at this particular time, Scotia has been fined $127 million. So there you have it. So the authorities basically said, the Department of Justice said that Scotia failed to prevent future unlawful conduct by the same traders that they were aware of. So not good. And they have evidence of what they're saying. There was documentation to prove that Scotia knew about what was going on and basically did nothing. So the US not joking around. Thank you, Barbara, for joining the conversation. Good morning, Catherine. So yes, unfortunately for Scotia employees here in the Cayman Islands, what that means for them is they will get no bonus money for this year, at least, and possibly the foreseeable future. So in other local news, there's so many birthday greetings still going around. Happy birthday to Alex Cohen. Today is his birthday. He is 30 years old, looking very handsome. His mom is Sherry Bodden Cohen, and she's just posted some birthday greetings for him. Since our positive COVID results last week, 2 persons in transit, we continue to have negative results so far. So we'll continue to monitor that situation. It's kind of one of those things where, you've got those 2 positive cases. Thankfully, they were imported in and they're in isolation. And now we kind of have to wait to see what else is going on. But I think the bottom line is, I'm expecting to hear this from the Premier today, is that we will not be reopening our borders anytime in the foreseeable future. How can we? I know this really hurts for those of you who work in tourism, and I'm not trying to say this lightly, but the question really becomes, how can we safely reopen our borders when we are surrounded by countries who just can't get it right? And their inability to, not be able to get it right directly impacts us, folks. Good morning, Sam. How are you? Good to see you. So yeah, I hate to say it, but at the end of the day, Jamaica is running amok. The rest of the Caribbean doesn't have it under control. Cuba, we saw what happened there. They had to start shutting back down Havana. So Havana has basically gone back into shutdown. And Cuba was having a peak of the virus as well. The US, oh Lord, I can't even keep up with them. So literally everyone that we are surrounded by has no control over this virus, and it is just running amok. So we can't reopen the borders. What we're doing right now is allowing residents in, which, by the way, a number of you have sent me photos capturing private jets coming in. Now, as you know, there is this flight program, there's a few of them, where you can literally sit and monitor the election. So they just sent me something about the election. You can sit and monitor flights, incoming and outgoing flights into our national airport on the monitor. And very good. Thank you for this information, my friend. Perfect. Don't you just love when thank you so much. That's a bit of good information that I've been waiting for. Juicy, juicy, juicy. Nice. Wow. Okay. Anyway, I love it when a plan comes together, folks. So yes, that was a bit of information that I had been waiting on. Woohoo! Things are getting hot in here. Anywho, yes, the person who sent me that is probably watching the show, so thank you, my darling. That is beautiful. So people have been sending me these flight details of incoming private jets, and they're like, what is this? Why are these people being allowed in? So I can confirm that these flights are residents returning to Cayman. They're not vacationers, they're not visitors. And in fact, these are people who would have homes here. So, I've got someone message me last week. Well, what about people who don't yet have a home, but they're building a home? Well, they can't come yet. Not yet. So those persons that Barbara says, look at that smile when you get some good soup. Good tea, Barbara, good tea. We say good tea. And the tea is juicy. If I had my tea, I could just be sipping it. And you got to sip it with the one little pinky finger out, which, by the way, is not proper protocol at all. You should never have your tea with that finger out, but we all do it because we see it like in movies. And I think it's super funny that everybody thinks that's how the royal family would actually drink their tea when it is not. But yes, girlfriend, that was some spicy, super hot tea just now, and just what I needed. So yes, big shout out to everybody who loves to send me the tea. I love it. And I appreciate it because it keeps us in the loop. And we now know what's going on. And we always know what's going on. So listen, yesterday we talked about, the brain is kind of like jumping from one thing to the next. Let me finish a complete thought this morning. The private planes authorized to come in, returning residents, and they still fit the quarantining requirement. Now, some persons have been asking, they've heard on the streets, literally on the mall road, that there are people who are permitted to come in and not go into quarantine, et cetera, et cetera. So I wanted to clarify this because someone had contacted me yesterday about what the requirements are and who can go into quarantine and who doesn't, who can self-quarantine at home. So there is no self-quarantining permitted at home. There are a few exceptions that can be approved by the chief medical officer for persons who have a serious medical condition. So they require the attendance of like a physician or in-house care or a nurse, or they might be going straight into the hospital upon arrival on this island. So those cases can go to the CMO for consideration, but they are reserved for individuals with very serious medical conditions only who quarantining in a hotel facility where they don't have access to that assistance would make it an issue in terms of their health. Those persons may get an exemption to self-quarantine at a different facility, but under extremely strict requirements. So don't think that you can finagle the authorities into giving you an exemption if you don't fall into that criteria. So the short answer is most of you will be quarantining at the privilege of the Cayman Islands government, because if you're a Caymanian, we are still paying for that. Or I think if you have permanent residency as well, we are paying for that. So the Cayman Islands government is picking up the tab on a lot of things, folks. So it is what it is. But yes, very interesting things going on there. So Miss Danica, where are you, girl? Speak of the devil, there she is. We're wondering what's going on, Danica. All right, we're about to pull you in. I'm gonna let you just fix your camera just a little bit, bring it down a little bit. There you go, beautiful. And do you have light behind you? Because I'm about to bring you in here and I'm trying to make sure all your lighting is perfect and you look as beautiful as possible. Danica spent so much time, we can't hear you yet because I haven't brought you in, but she spent so much time in the bathroom this morning. I'm expecting all of the glam to be done. Hello, folks. Morning, Paul. Thank you so much for joining us. Barbara's coming back in October when her daughter is going to school. Okay, so your daughter's settling in school in Paris. October the 1st, I seriously doubt it, Barbara. I wouldn't hold my breath for the reopening of our airports. In my opinion, and this is just my opinion, but I've called it correctly already for 2020. I said it's not going to happen September. I told you guys that from day one. And everybody was like, oh, September the 1st, they're going to make it work. They're going to, phase in, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, listen, everybody's doing a phase in reopening and it just isn't working. So is it going to work for October the 1st? No, I don't think so. Is it going to work for November the 1st? No, I don't think so. December the 1st? Probably not. I think, honestly, you're looking at next year. We are nowhere close to a vaccine. Remember the Russians claim that they have a vaccine? Don't you think it's kind of funny that we haven't heard anything more about this Russian vaccine? They were going to give it to the Filipinos for free. So we'll have to wait and see how that pans out, because I don't think they're anywhere near being ready. All right, Miss Danica, are we ready? Danica is getting herself ready.
Ready.
Hello.
Hi, Sandra. Morning. Morning,
now,
viewers.
Danica she's my first guest that I've had since a new feature has been added. So I'm going to check something out here because I do want to, apparently I can now move you around on my screen. So hold on one second. So if I put you here, in theory, I'm supposed to be able to, let me see how this works now. Okay, no, that's not what I want. I'm supposed to be able to move you, except I don't see how that works yet. Oh, there we go. There we go. Look at that. I can just drag you over now. So you are the primary guest in the window. Modern technology, you gotta love it. Ricky is saying if you're interested in that job at the Pasta Pana, what was it called? Pasta Pana? New restaurant there in Cayman Bay. You can email your information, your resume and details to info@Pane, no, it's Pane and Pasta, or call 525-1240. And he's saying that if you are in need of a job, by all means, apply. Yeah, Irvlin, I doubt October is realistic. I mean, let's be honest. This coronavirus is crazy. Danica, how have you been?
Well, Sandra, I have been busy. As you know, being a journalist, news reporter in times like now means that you're dealing with coronavirus figures all day, every day, night, evening, late night press conferences. Everything's breaking in the middle of the night. If you've noticed, the numbers coming out of Jamaica are coming very late at night. So we're getting our numbers close to midnight. So that's when we know that you have 83 new cases, 56 new cases. And this week alone, we've had 116, 56. So we're at 1,500 and odd cases. So
now, Danica, do you get the sense that 1,500 is actually nowhere near the actual number of cases that
Yes,
Jamaica has.
yes. And I'll
And
tell you
do you think
why.
most people understand that as well? Like the average person in the street?
I think the average person in the street doesn't care about the coronavirus.
Oh,
And
wow.
their perspective is that it's just the flu and you'll get over it and we're all going to get it anyway. That's what I get from everybody, because as you would know, that Usain Bolt, I can't confirm that he's actually tested positive, but I know that he was tested for the coronavirus. And there's a whole hullabaloo around that situation. And let me tell you why. Bolt was tested on Saturday. The test that he was tested on Saturday, on Monday, which was yesterday morning, Nationwide, which is a radio station, reported that he had confirmed positive. Now, after this, maybe about 2 hours later, Bolt appears on Twitter and Instagram telling people, I don't know where Nationwide got that from. I just woke up. I don't know that I have corona. I haven't seen the positive test results. Last night at the press conference, the Minister of Health, who usually is quiet on everything, he never knows and he has to go check back, could confirm that Usain Bolt had coronavirus. The problem with all of this is, don't get me wrong, I have no desire to put the health ministry or anybody in the Jamaican government under the microscope. But do remember, just a couple weeks back, they said we had a backlog. And if you have a backlog, how is it that Usain Bolt magically gets tested on Saturday and on Monday his test results are now available?
Because he's a celebrity. I've got the simple answer for that. Is my man is a celebrity. So here's what I think happened. And I know you and I had this discussion off air. But he is, when you're a celebrity, you get preferential treatment. So you get tested today, you get results today, kind of thing. And it's not unexpected that as a celebrity, his tests would take priority over this backlog from a month ago. And we were talking about this backlog I think it was some day last week, because to me, it's crazy that Jamaica has a backlog from over a month ago when there are people who would have been tested then who are waiting on results, and they would be walking around like nobody's business, potentially passing this virus from one person to the next. So listen, Sky News
government
posted that 2 hours ago, confirming that he has it. The Times of India has confirmed that he's had it. Yesterday, by the time that we were posting it up, both Daily Mail, both Sun, this national news in Jamaica that you were talking about. So literally the news feeds are ablaze that he definitely has it. So I think that it's safe to say
the problem with that is, Sandra, that I don't ever think people's private health information should be posted by anybody outside of the person unless it is of public interest. Now, for Usain Bolt, I know everybody's going to say, but he had that party. According to how we operate, the prime minister has been walking around doing all sorts of nonsense for nomination day. We haven't gone after him. Contrary to
listen, when he tests positive, which by the way, I see some mayor, who's this mayor in Jamaica that is tested positive as well. So a lot of people surrounding him, because they said something about this mayor being in contact with not necessarily him
the
directly.
Mayor of Manchester, who tested
so
positive.
I mean, it's probably only a matter of time before your prime minister gets it as well. But listen, Al
But
Jazeera.
the point I'm trying to make is the prime minister is a public figure. If the leader of your country has coronavirus, everybody would want to know that information.
Yeah, but so is Bolt.
Bolt is a celebrity who's retired from track and field. He should have been allowed to release his private data to the public without Nationwide or anybody breaking that, because it wasn't even really of great public interest, because we had already established the fact of the matter is that majority of people in Jamaica were not that concerned about coronavirus, because they wouldn't have had Bolt's partying out the day before. So when you're a celebrity.
When you're a
But
celebrity, everybody wants to know. So let me tell you how this works, right?
no, I
Just
agree,
for the
Sandra,
benefit.
but you go down a slippery slope if you are releasing Bolt's
No, no,
medical
no, no, I understand
information
that. But I'm just
through
saying in terms of
listen, and the problem is it's not even why they've released the information. I could understand if they said that they wanted to keep the party guests protected. The problem is they've released it through a source, which suggests that Jamaica's healthcare system could be flawed, because if I go and you can release my coronavirus test and the minister knows before I do, or even if it was a lie, let's say he was lying, that information really should have come from a first-hand source. Somebody within Bolt's camp should have confirmed that before it was leaked to any media. We will never have a prime minister that tests positive for coronavirus and it comes through a source. The lab tech that released Jamaica's prime minister's test results would be fired. That's the point I'm trying to make in all of this.
no. And I totally agree with you. But in terms of the public interest, this eclipses anything that's happening in Jamaica. Because listen, I would be willing to bet if you walked around the world and you said to people who were not Jamaican, who is the most popular Jamaican? There's only two people that they could probably name: Bob Marley and Bolt. Who is the prime minister of Jamaica? Most people would have no clue. They'd be like, Andrew who? So Al Jazeera Times has it up 9 hours ago. CNBC says fastest man alive. Usain Bolt test positive for coronavirus. And they said the health minister has confirmed it late on Monday. Times of India, Daily Express.
Cannot confirm an individual test result. That's just the fact of the matter. That's like saying the health minister Dwayne Seymour in Cayman confirms Sandra's test results. That is unethical. It's crazy.
Well, I mean, he did the ministry. What's your Ministry of Health called? Health and Wellness or whatever. They did post something on Twitter.
I agree. I saw it, but I'm just saying to you, do people of the Caribbean not see how flawed that is? That is like saying somebody knows your HIV status.
I totally listen. I mean, it's not quite the same as HIV because, coronavirus.
They killed a man on a bus. They beat a man on a bus just 2 months back because he coughed on the bus. That is stigmatizing. Wow. They beat a man. Usain Bolt would have come out and said he had coronavirus. It's popular to do. Every celebrity has it, from Idris Elba to Madonna, who just arrived in the island. Nobody created a hullabaloo. It is the fact
they're not Bolt. I mean, this is the thing.
It's the fact that Nationwide broke the story without Bolt's confirmation. So it's juicy. Yeah. I did it. That's it. How do you know somebody's coronavirus test without them? That's what makes it.
I must say for Nationwide, who people may not have heard of before, this Nationwide 90 FM, their name is now being mentioned in every single international. I mean, I don't know how much their what would we call it? Like their equity has gone up since this story, because here's the link in this Express story, because they're mentioned in every single article.
Sandra, if you come out and you say some high-ranking professional in Cayman, if you say, I don't know, one of these big wigs have coronavirus, they have to link back to you because they're not taking the blame. They're saying, we're not saying you say, we're saying a source outside of Jamaica. That's how the media works. Mm-hmm. My problem is this could backfire for Nationwide. You can't break all the rules and expect to win. You will not win. It's just not fair because it's private medical data. Usain could have gave you an exclusive. You could have called Bolt and he'd be like, just got the test results. That's proper. That's a great story. You're still ahead of the pack. But we have to realize ethics. Mm-hmm. This could go further than that. And the other thing that I want to mention to your viewers is that most people believe that Nationwide is aligned to a political party. So they feel like, yes, they could have had the information about Bolt, and that's what makes this more disturbing. And so we have to remember at the end of the day, yes, it's a story. Yes, it's a great story, but there are some ethical violations that shouldn't be breached. We are one of the first media houses in the Caribbean to put up the story that Jamaica's police commissioner had tested positive. I wrote that story. Where did we get that information? The police commissioner's office confirmed that. That's a very different thing. And also, the police commissioner is the head of your security forces. That's a big deal. So for him to put that out there, it suggests that Bolt would have. Many people have come out and said that they've tested positive. Nationwide was just out of line.
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree with you, but I think in the real world, unfortunately, there are, people who, will leak this information. I mean, we've not had, I don't think, any major leaks here from our medical personnel. However, there have been people that I have known that have had the virus. And so the question then becomes, how do I know that? How do I know that they've had it? And so when I think about that, well, there's only two possibilities: they themselves talking it, or someone in the medical community have talked it. So I totally understand, I think, what you're saying, and the fact that it is a concern. Irvlin is in agreement with you. Irvlin says here that it should have never been done. They're only naming the most popular or people of high ranks. Why not name the rest of the people then? So I think one of the things as well that is interesting to me is that I don't see what the big deal is about someone saying that they have coronavirus. So I don't think it's the equivalent of having AIDS or HIV or anything else like that. The stigma that attached to those diseases back in the 80s when they first emerged, that stigma may still exist for a disease like HIV, but something like coronavirus, I think one way in which to destigmatize it is for celebrities like Bolt, when he is confirmed positive and he knows it, to be more than willing to share that information with the general public. Because there is a sense here that obviously he was irresponsible with how he was handling his business.
But stick a pin, Sandra. Here's my problem with everybody. Bolt is known to have careless behavior. Let's just put it out there. He's known to throw parties. He's known to act wild. A couple years back, his neighbor said he was an unconscious neighbor. He was always having party and it was noisy. The point that I'm bringing across to most people is the Prime Minister of Jamaica, who we hold in such high esteem, did nomination day activity. Social distancing was breached. Many supporters didn't have a mask. Why do we single out Usain Bolt? There weren't more people that showed up to a Usain Bolt's house than nomination day.
No, well, I mean, hopefully people are singling out your prime minister as well.
But that's my point. So we go and we try to deflect attention from the real matters. Don't get me wrong. I agree. Bolt should have never held a party. Bolt should have been more responsible. He has a newborn baby.
And to be fair to him, the reports are that it was actually a surprise party put on by his girlfriend. So, let's give him the benefit of the doubt in terms of he didn't necessarily organize it, but the girlfriend doesn't seem to, especially as a mother of a young child, she doesn't seem to be thinking of the bigger picture. And there were other celebrities there. So now the question becomes, does this cricketer so-and-so have it? I think somebody else has tested negative, one of the other celebrities.
Yes, Raheem Sterling. He was also at Bolt's party, and Sky News or Sky Sports is reporting that he's tested negative after Bolt's party. My concern is that I've never heard the PMs, the Minister of Health. I don't hear any of those people coming out to say we've done coronavirus tests. And I just think it's a bias. And I think that we don't give Usain Bolt as much respect as we should, as a region, as a group, because the perception is he was once a poor man from Trelawney, and Trelawney is one of those rural parishes. He is nobody. If this had been a high-ranking businessman in Jamaica, he would have sued this news company, and people would have said, oh no, this is not the right way that we go about it. But because it's Bolt, we feel like we can do certain things. And I think that's the biggest issue that bothers me, because if I was a person of money, you'd have to wait for me to come out and say that I had corona. You can't break that before me. I'm sorry. And that's where I draw the line. because I deserve the respect as everybody else. And there's a certain element about my personal information that I should be allowed to release. You, as your government, you could have contact traced everybody that came to my party. I don't care what you want to do, but do not publicly humiliate me. I think that's not the thing. And to be fair, the health minister himself, when they were asking him about his personal business, which was not coronavirus related, he said, it's none of your business. So to Usain's team, I'd say, call them back and say, it's none of your business. That's my private business. Go about your business. I just feel like there is such a bias that happens in Jamaica as to how we treat people based on who we perceive as powerful, because what it does suggest is that we don't respect the fastest man in the world, and I think that should be respected.
Very interesting. Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with you that definitely some sort of a breach occurred. Now, whether or not that breach was done by someone in the medical profession, whether it came from the health ministry's office or something else, I think is a very, very interesting question. So Bolt is it official that he's actually gone into quarantine?
Well, Sandra, what happens is everybody in Jamaica has gone into quarantine. Once they hear that they've been in a space with somebody that has coronavirus, everybody goes into quarantine. What that actually means, I have no idea. I don't know the difference between quarantine and isolation. I don't think people in homes really follow self-quarantine. They're probably just telling the media that. I don't know. We don't know. And also, too, there's a lot of problems, and this is why I don't like to put out information about coronavirus until I'm aware, because what I've now been told is that in initial tests, a lot of people test positive for coronaviruses. However, to know if they have COVID-19, they have to wait for another coronavirus test. So you essentially have to have your swab tested twice, because that's how the testing works. So, I mean, it is so problematic, and I think people should be a little bit more informed. And I think we as a regional group need to come up with some standards, because a lot of things go through the cracks. I mean, we're saying we have 1,500 people that have tested positive for coronavirus, but yet only 600 are currently active. Why are we continuing to report the cases that are no longer active? Because I think that's the most important thing. There's now new information coming out globally that people can be reinfected with the same COVID-19, but a different strain of that. There's a lot of information, and I really don't feel media professionals are being responsible enough in informing people about what they really need to know about coronavirus. All we're doing is going, so-and-so is tested positive, and this place is having a sanitization exercise or cleansing exercise. That's fine. What we really need to do, or spend our time on doing, is breaking down what is coronavirus, how do you really keep yourself safe, to what does this mean for me going forward? Because you still go to the supermarkets and have people standing up intimately close to you and feeling offended when you move away from them. You have people that are not washing their masks. You have people that are doing all sorts of activities that are not conducive to containing the spread of the coronavirus. And we also, when we test positive, what does that even mean? You just go home and sit in self-quarantine. What does self-quarantine look like? What am I supposed to be eating? Maybe you shouldn't really be drinking alcohol in self-quarantine because it's breaking down your immune system. Nobody's talking about the very important issues that really are associated with coronavirus. We're just all over the place playing cute. And it's really, if we think about it as something serious, that's the information we really need to be giving to the public. But nobody's doing that, myself included, because you don't have the information, because everybody's hogging it. I've sent an information request for how should people self-quarantine. What does that look like? If I'm confirmed positive and I need to go into isolation in my house, what does that now mean? Does it mean that I can't go to the bathroom? Do I get a bedpan? Do I get a chimney? Does any of your viewers out there remember what a chimney is? Anybody?
No.
Just so it's a bed. It's what old time English people call a bedpan, and you'd have to pee in the chimney and empty it in the morning. Is that how deep it goes for an isolation? Like, nobody really knows. And so while there is a ton of information, there's really an information void
Yeah.
at the same time.
Well, I tell you what, are you in agreement that Jamaica is probably not doing the best job in the world when it comes to handling COVID? I mean, like you said, you've got questions about what self-quarantining is. I'm surprised that that information isn't readily available on the health services or whatever you call your health division on their website. Like that should be one of the key things, because they're encouraging people and telling people who are traveling into Jamaica, which we know a lot of the more recent cases have been imported in. And a lot of those persons are self-quarantining initially until test results come back. So you would think that every single traveler into your country is getting a little booklet on how do you self-quarantine.
Who's self-quarantining? Madonna arrived when? Where was she?
And Madonna actually had it before.
Yes, she had it before. But if it is that we have legislation that says you must self-quarantine, how is it that Madonna arrives on her birthday and is seen with little Jamaican children? Did she little Jamaican children with her from wherever she came from? It's flawed. It looks stupid. Nobody questioned Madonna because she has white privilege. Nobody said, wait a second, should she really be interacting with the public? She just came from wherever the hell she came from. She should have been in quarantine, but was she? And that's the disparity in treatment that I'm talking about. Nobody's in self-quarantine, Sandra. They get off the plane today. They stay home for 5 minutes. If they didn't bring anything from their relatives from abroad, then they call the Ministry of Health on speed dial and put you out. But outside of that, nobody's in self-quarantine. And I say that I'm being facetious. I'm doing a generalization. I'm sure that there's some people that are taking it seriously, but I can say for the majority of people, they're just walking around just fine. Wow. And that goes back, and the Prime Minister himself has admitted this, that goes back to the fundamental social implications of this virus. We haven't spent a lot of time socializing people on the coronavirus. What does this now mean for me? It means that you need to stand back from me in the supermarket. Wait until it's your turn to come up to the register. You don't start packing on your groceries. You're not in a rush to go nowhere. The trouble is we haven't, as a society, understood coronavirus. And I think it comes from the leadership, because many people will cite when the former Minister of Labor and Social Security died, and how we were in the midst of the pandemic and how the Prime Minister treated with that. It comes from the leadership. He was seen there at the gathering ceremonies that happened, you know what happens when somebody dies, 9 nights, stuff like that. And he was seen in close proximity. It was as if, as in Jamaican parlance, Corona na keep. That was the truth. People were like, wait, are we still having this coronavirus? Is it still a thing? So people don't see the leadership coming down. I think the Prime Minister realizes in recent times, I have influence and I really should be setting the agenda, which is why he's now canceled his physical campaigning activities. But prior to that, let's face it, I saw people dancing, winding up, dogs being painted, people stepping out in pieces of clothes in a time when you hear that this thing travels through the air. You think you want to be covered so you can go home, take off this clothes and wash them. Instead, people were just moving around freely. And these are the types of things that we're not really addressing. We're just down on 2 and 3 people that we see coming in. Because many people are flouting the laws. There are many underground parties. Obviously, I can't report on that because I'm not trying to get anybody in trouble. But there's tons of underground parties. Every weekend there's a party. Bolt had a party. Beanie Man had a party. Now Crystal Tomlinson, she's out of the debates, which is the girlfriend of Beanie Man. She is also a candidate for West Rural St. Andrew in the upcoming election. She went to a party, and apparently a guest from Usain party was at Beanie Man's party. And here you go. So she's out of the debates. She can't go anywhere. Then there's the question is, if these people test positive on September 3rd, we don't have mail-in ballots. Our postal system doesn't work well enough. We don't have a lot of things to mitigate the risk. So what will happen? Who's going to collect Bolt's ballot? is Bolt even voting? Who's going to collect other people's ballots? If it is that they are confirmed positive, we don't really have a strategy. We don't know. There's nothing. So we're not ready for anything yet. By no fault of the prime minister, he's trying. I just don't think the leaders in the Caribbean are really aware of what's going on. I don't really think they understand it well enough, so they can't really lead the line on the people. So you'll find that the Jamaican people are operating as normal,
Mm-hmm. Okay. Wow. What a hot mess, child, as we say here in the Cayman Islands. I mean, it's kind of interesting, but somebody says that's why they arrested Armari, the female artist that sings Nico. Now, I'm glad Irvlin mentioned this because I kept seeing some reference to Nico, and to be honest, the entertainment side of Jamaica, sometimes I can't always keep up with. So I didn't even know who the heck Nico was.
I
Or what
didn't know
Nico
who
is.
the heck Nico was either until I heard this horrible song. I'm sorry you don't have a clip of it to play on your site.
Lord have mercy.
It is a disaster. It's like the fake Michael Jackson. I respect Amari, by the way. She was along with the formerly toothless Gully Bop. I respect her. Any woman that can date a man when they're in certain types of conditions, great respect to you. Kudos. I wouldn't knock your hustle. She did arrive in the island and she was charged for flouting COVID-19 rules. She was also charged for swearing at the police. So I am aware. To me, I thought she was just a social media blogger type of personality. I had not realized that she was an artist until a couple of days ago. Somebody's like, you have to listen to this song. And I'm just like, this is in my perspective, and I'm not a musician. I can't even sing a key. So maybe my perspective isn't valid. It is, it's really not a song, but in modern day, anything can catch a hype in Jamaica. You just have to have a buzz, but it's a horrible.
So this song, I'm just having a quick look here. They're claiming that this is the hottest, I guess.
It is. It's very popular. It's very popular right now. And
In the dance hall genre.
Yes, that's
so
true.
I'm guessing it's laced with profanity and those sorts of things.
No, it isn't. It actually isn't. Oh. It's basically saying that that her life has been destroyed by this man that, you know, she used to date, I guess. I'm not even really sure what Nico does, but yeah, that's it. But the first couple of lines, if you played it, it wouldn't put your viewers in disrepute. It's not laced with any profanity. I don't know of Amari to be that type, but okay. I only listened to the first 10 seconds of it and I was like, oh Lord, the hook was enough for me. I had enough.
Okay. All right. So this Amari person was traveling from where? She came in from the States or?
From the United States.
Okay. And for the most part, that's where you guys have been importing the COVID-19. I mean, I'm sure Jamaica, like I said, has more than enough spreading community transmission. But when they decided to open their borders on July the 1st to support the tourism industry and other people who said we can't remain in lockdown, most cases have been imported from the U.S.
I would say it's not clear where all the cases are coming from because, as you would know, that there's also the top footballer, Raheem Sterling, who's currently in Jamaica, and he's from the UK. So people are coming from all sorts of places. People are still traveling. It's just that you have to have a lot of money to travel right now. So I don't know. I would say the majority, but this is more, what kind of information would you call this? This is more anecdotal evidence based on what I've seen. I couldn't say definitively because I do know that a large part of Jamaican society is coming back from the United Kingdom. So I don't know. And to me, the people coming in from the UK are particularly interesting because a lot of them are older people. So when they arrive with it, they usually end up dead or something. You're like, oh God, like it's so particularly traumatic. So I don't know what that situation is. The Americans, you hear about one and few of them. You hear about people from Dominican Republic coming in with COVID-19. You're hearing about people from Honduras. You're hearing, so it's not even that segmented where you could talk about the numbers, because they're not even providing the real numbers as to how many people are coming into the country on a daily basis. We have people here from Nigeria who've tested positive, and you go, how do you get a flight to Nigeria? There's no straight flight. So it leaves a lot to be said as to where people are coming from. But I would say the United States is the primary place in which they're coming from. But there are a lot of people coming from even just around the region. With COVID-19.
Irvlin also mentions that there's a lot of people in Cayman that don't quite understand the dangers of coronavirus, because sometimes they'll walk in with no mask on, and when you ask them to put it on, they say, after no corona, then they yeah. I'm not the best at this, but basically in a patois, telling you that Jamaica and coronavirus is not here in the Cayman Islands. And she's like, well, I'm here, so put on your mask, sir or madam.
Well, I feel for Evelyn. That's my concern with most people, mask wearing, because there was so much controversy with it initially, where it was said that it could potentially give you the coronavirus if you're not using it properly, because if you don't go home and handle it in a particular way, you could just putting the virus in your mouth directly. But now what is happening is people wear it under their chin, people wear it above their head, people wear it over their eyes. It's become everything but what it's supposed to be.
So Catherine wants to know how many people in Cayman have been tested for the virus. We don't know is the short answer. We only know how many tests they've conducted, but we know that some of those are repetitive. Now, listen, we've got a bit of breaking news. So Danica, I'm going to do this swap again. Wow, look at how easy that is. Amazing. I love modern technology, folks. Can I just tell you?
What's breaking news?
No, that's not the breaking news, but I'm going to tell you the breaking news is we actually have the regulations in our little hands. I tell you guys, I always get juicy stuff. So I've just received this. We're having a press conference today. And one of the reasons, apparently, now I know that we're having the press conference is there will be some changes to our regulations. So remember, we have the prevention, control, and suppression of COVID-19 regulations. And this is partial lifting of restrictions number 4. And so I'm just trying to scan it really quickly. It's an 11-page document. I'm just trying to see what's new. So I'm still in the definition section, but it says wearing of mask. So anyone over the age of 2, indoor, blah, blah, blah. Let me just see what we've got going on here. So it looks like mask wearing is still in place, because there have been a lot of people questioning whether or not that would be lifted, because there have been rumors, I think, circulating. It doesn't look like that has been lifted. So it talks about direct suppression. Exercise and sports. There's public requirements. 200 sport persons shall be permitted anytime. Spectators, okay. Sorry, give me 1 second. I'm just trying to send that a quick message here. So we have an increase there. We also have, let me just see what else we got coming down the pipeline. So this was signed into law yesterday. So of course we know that these are some of the legal requirements that must be in place. Public transports, an operator of a taxi or omnibus shall only drive such taxi, blah, 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 including the driver shall wear masks or cloth coverings. And anyone who does not do that is committing an offense. Conviction of a fine of $1,000 and imprisonment for 6 months. Okay, so they're making that mandatory. Scuba diving and snorkeling. So of course, we're a big diving destination, and this continues to be one of the areas of concern because people want to be able to rent snorkeling equipment. So it says here, a person who wishes to rent scuba or snorkeling equipment to a customer, including for training in scuba diving or snorkeling, has to comply with the following. Then they have 4 things here under subsection 1. So it looks like we can now, the bottom line here, before you couldn't rent any diving equipment, snorkel gear and so on. It looks like now you can, subject to certain things, including registering with the Department of Environmental Health, ensuring that all shared scuba and snorkeling equipment is cleaned every day through an agent provided for use through Department of Environmental Health. So it looks like bottom line is you can actually rent diving and snorkeling equipment. In terms of the prohibition and use of hookah, shisha pipes, or water pipes, that is still prohibited. So no hookah. And if you do it, you're committing an offense liable to conviction of a fine of $1,000. But we saw that the last time they changed these regulations, interestingly enough, there was a local establishment. I saw the video myself where people were doing hookah at Lily's. So Lily's claims that they had some kind of an exemption, but the law does not provide for an exemption, so that can't be the case. Let me just see what else is changing. So we have, we talked about public transport, restriction of visitation. Okay, no person shall visit a place or a facility of quarantine or isolation, or a person in place or facility. Okay, so you can't visit anybody in quarantine. That's the bottom line there. And it lists quite a bit of things here about this whole quarantine situation. So there are a number under section 8. There's a lot of subsections. So, there's a manager of the quarantine facility. It basically says that you have to, there's use of personal protective equipment at the facility, that they have to, where the place or facility of quarantine or isolation is a person's place of residence, a person under paragraph 1B shall comply with the directions of the medical officer of health, which would be, I guess, Dr. Lee, in relation to the use of personal protective equipment. If you're going to visit a health facility, again, there's still things in place there in terms of PPE that's required. Visiting a prison, residential care home. So all of those things are covered under section 8, restriction on visitation. So weddings. Now you can get married with a few more people. So weddings will host a wedding which has more than 200 persons other than the bride, the bridegroom, official witnesses, and the marriage officer. So now you can have 250 guests basically, and same thing for funerals. So that's a good, I think, good number. Yeah, we're getting there. Public places of preventing, controlling, blah, blah, blah. No person shall hold any public meeting, procession, or festive ceremony unless permitted by regulations. Yes. Okay, so public meetings still seem to be very restrictive. And then that's section 6. So the wearing of mask seems to be reinforced here. Let me just see. Shall wear a mask, and any person who refuses to do so shall be refused entry. So you can refuse people entry. The medical officer is going to issue written guidance on the use of masks or cloth masks for children between the ages of 2 and 10. So as you guys know, this has been an area of real concern with schools reopening partly this week. A lot of kids are doing orientation today as we speak, but it looks like we're going to hear a bit more. So apparently the chief CMO is going to issue some written guidance for children between 2 and 10. Because there was a petition in circulation, as you guys remember last week, that was basically asking the government to not force children under the age of 10 to wear masks. And so more to come from this. We can expect this at 2 o'clock because there is a press briefing at 2. Owner or operator of a public space shall not refuse entry to a person on the grounds either that the person is wearing a mask or cloth covering or subject to paragraph 2 is not wearing a mask or cloth covering. Shall not refuse. Say what? Okay. Oh, subject to paragraph 2. You always got to read back when it says subject to this. So paragraph 2. Oh, so hold on a second. Back it up, folks. I think this is actually major. It's funny how they can like sneak in a little something in the law and you're like, what did I just read? This is where having a law degree comes in handy. So basically, okay. Oh, so I think they're doing away with the wearing a mask. Hold on, folks. Let's break it down here. Give me a minute. I'm having COVID brain. All right, so let's read this through. Danica, this is where I'm like, okay, first year law, take your time and read. Section 5, wearing of mask, subject to paragraph 2. And again, it's referring back to this other paragraph 2, but okay. A person, and I'm thinking it's paragraph 2 below, a person over the age of 2 years old who is indoors at a public place may cover his or her mouth and nose with a mask or cloth covering, but is not required to do so. Ta-da! I need those little, what's the thing over my head, my aha moment. So they are lifting the wearing of mask. Yes. Except in facilities like healthcare facility, residential home, prison, a place of detention, airport, or any such other place as may be specified by notice by the chief medical officer. Okay. And may require that any person who visits any of these places to wear a mask. Okay. All right. So that's that. Okay. Bam. I got it. All right. Danica, what else you got for me, honey? We're going to a little bit early today because I do have to run the court.
Okay, no worries. So as I said, coronavirus cases, just to recap for your viewers, we've recorded 83 new COVID-19 cases, and that brings our tally to 1,612. Over the weekend, just like the Cayman Islands, we experienced landslides, road blockages due to the passing of Tropical Storm Laura. We've not yet assessed the damage, but especially in the eastern and southern parishes, which are St. Mary, St. Thomas, St. Andrew, those places we saw extensive flooding, particularly in sections of Kingston and St. Andrew. As you guys would know, Kingston and St. Andrew is the population center. So people do a lot of business in Kingston and St. Andrew. If you live in Ocho Rios, if you live in Mandeville, you might be required to come into Kingston. As you know, at the beginning of this government's administration, an extensive road network was built, kind of spilling over from the previous administration that had negotiated the loans that would build these new roads. What we've seen is a destruction of some of these new roads, which is forcing a lot of people to point fingers, saying that the road work wasn't done properly. You have a lot of these roads that were completely flooded, now destroyed, now in need of repair. So assessments are being done. For those of you that are really interested in Jamaica news, today we have the debates coming up. As you know, some of the key debaters that we had hoped to be in the debates are now out due to their interactions at parties. And so, and across the region, as you guys would have known earlier this week, Trinidad and Tobago reported that they had 799 active cases, which at the time was more active cases than Jamaica, which is interesting because they're reporting a lower tally. If you go further across the region, Barbados is continuing to see a bit of COVID-19 cases. However, in recent times, we haven't really seen a lot of news reports coming out of Barbados. I can't say definitively how many. No significant spike like Jamaica. I think they have about 3 new cases or 4 new cases recently, and they have a total of maybe 22 active cases. Not sure how much they're testing in these areas, because a lot of the countries, they're not testing a whole lot. So you have to take that into consideration. So that's about it in terms of regional coverage. Suriname and those countries to the south of the Caribbean, heading there into South America, tend to have higher cases, tend to have more deaths, like Guyana, Suriname, Guyana, those places. As you know, in the Spanish-speaking Caribbean, it's very difficult to get information because I don't read Spanish and I don't necessarily know a lot about how their political systems work and how they're reporting numbers. But I've heard that cases continue to be high in the Dominican Republic and Haiti, which is still getting a lot of international press attention. So that's it for the international roundup. I also wanted to find out, this is just a question. I noticed that Cayman reported 2 new cases of COVID-19, but your borders are closed, and they said that these cases arrived in the Cayman Islands. What's going on with that, Marl Road?
Well, I tell you what, Danica, the truth of the matter is those people were in quarantine. So our borders are still closed, but we are allowing these repatriation flights back and forth. So there are air bridge flights for bringing people in. And as I mentioned earlier in our show, there's also private planes that are allowed to come in with residents, but everyone has to go into a quarantine, mandatory quarantine facility.
So it's rich people. You guys are bringing in the rich, right?
Well, if they own a home here, I guess it doesn't matter if they're rich or poor, because they are Caymanians who are returning home as well. And Jade is having a little bit of a laugh at that, I think. But yes, those individuals are permitted to come back. And if you're Caymanian or permanent residence holder, you actually get the government to pay for you, which is crazy. But there you go.
Okay. See. So
yes.
It's interesting because, I mean, for weeks being 4 is a lot in coronavirus times. I know everybody is not familiar with how time feels like it's just going so slowly. Like it has been the slowest period. I know we're almost in September and everybody's getting ready to go back to school. And I go, how does Cayman have new cases of the coronavirus? And the new cases of the coronavirus arrived in. And I go, oh, Sandra's always bragging. Jamaica should close its borders. And I go, Sandra, we're poor here. We don't have a pension system that everybody can raid to buy luxury televisions, as the man from Fidelity said. We have to keep the borders open because we're going to die of hunger. Corona might not kill us. Hunger might kill us. And I remember seeing the figures going up in the Cayman Islands and going, so Sandra's not telling me the whole deal. She's protecting. She's making secret her handlings in Cayman. I was like, oh, now you got 3 cases. I saw you put up that story quick. I was like, oh. Well, it can't be the people in Cayman.
No. We're not hiding anything, but definitely, I think that, I mean, people are still coming in under quarantine restrictions. And this demonstrates, and this is why I've always said, keep those borders shut at all costs, because this demonstrates how quickly the situation can change once you reopen those borders. I mean, we have the strictest quarantine requirements in place where they're bused directly from the airport and a government bus that's sanitized, the whole works, straight to a quarantine facility. And look at what's still happening. We still have positive cases popping up because we can't, as I was saying earlier this morning, we can never feel safe because at this particular point in time, thank you, Jade. They know I don't be hiding nothing, girl. I'll be putting it all out there. Put it all out there, make it all hang out. But no, I mean, honestly, between the US, which is the epicenter of this outbreak at the moment, Europe doesn't have it under control. They're having a reemergence. They want to call it, the second wave, third wave, whatever. It's just not under control. So I think this virus is very deceptive, and that your numbers can go down a little bit, but then you've got situations like backlogs, not just in Jamaica and the US. They've got at least a 2-week to 3-week waiting period to get test results in. Jamaica is having a not even a reemergence, it's just a surge. What has been your highest number, your single day digits in Jamaica? What's been the highest? Was that
116?
Wow.
Has been our single day highest. And let me touch into that a little bit more. Let me unpack that for people. So I'm just pulling up here the day that we recorded 100 new cases, and that day was August 24th, and that was 116 new COVID-19 cases, and that brought the figure to 1,529.
wow?
So what we were really seeing was that the minister, for the first time. Sorry, I'm having a little bit of feedback. I'm not sure I'm hearing myself. What we were really seeing was that the minister was also reporting that we now had, for the first time, seen our recoveries plummeting, because we had more COVID cases than recoveries that were happening. And another significant thing to understand about the Jamaican situation is where previously we had said, okay, well, these are contacts of confirmed cases, or these are imported cases. This was one of the first times that we had the majority of cases, which was close to maybe 100 of the 116 that were under investigation. So there was no tracing as to where these cases had spiked from. That's interesting. Prior to that, we had recorded COVID-19 recoveries, or a recovery rate in the high 70s, high 80s. If you look today, you would find that Jamaica has a recovery rate of just about 50%. So we also saw a spike in the number of COVID patients that were critically ill, requiring hospital beds. So earlier this week, also, there was speculation. A popular doctor in Jamaica had suggested on social media, of course, that there was a shortage of COVID-19 beds. The Minister of Health came out and he said, no, that's not the case. However, in saying that that wasn't the case, he brought to light some things that we didn't know. So one of the things that we know is, according to the Jamaican government, they've set aside 315 beds for COVID-19 patients. According to them, only 25% are currently occupied. They said that the Kingston Public Hospital and the University Hospital of the West Indies, which is in Mona, and this is also another hospital at KPH's downtown Kingston, had the highest volume of people currently occupying COVID-19 beds. This was interesting because 2 doctors at KPH had tested positive for COVID-19, forcing an almost lockdown of the institution, because the protocols that we have going forward in Jamaica are that you're not necessarily just going to pull people out of an institution that has positive cases. We are going to perform sanitization exercises. or what I call sanitation exercises. I don't know when we've made sanitization a word, but I still believe it's sanitation. I'm not sure if sanitization yet is an official word, but people have been running with it. So what we've been doing is we've been sanitizing hospitals. We've been sanitizing places of business where confirmed COVID-19 cases have come through. This is a part of the protocols that they've established. So what we were seeing is that places like Kingston Public Hospital were closed and we're only accepting emergency services. So essentially seeing a rise in COVID cases. We're also seeing a lot of business closures. And this goes back to the root of the problem, which is we were never really set up as a country to facilitate a digital economy. And nobody's talking about that in the Caribbean, but a lot of our businesses are set up to be physical establishments. We have a hard time getting people on the phone. We have a hard time getting a response to an email. This is because primarily how our business class thinks is that everything should be physical. So with the COVID-19 virus rising, what we are seeing is weaknesses in the overall system. By that, I mean, we're seeing that this is why we're having this slowdown in the economy, is because businesses aren't necessarily adapting. So it's not that just Jamaicans are not adapting to COVID-19 and the virus and proper prevention protocols like hand washing, mask wearing, and general sanitization, as well as social distancing. We're also seeing that businesses are unable to cope because a lot of them don't have the infrastructure that would make the digital process or the digitalization process move quickly and smoothly. So we had a positive case at Digicel. Why is Digicel still having workers come in? Their excuse is they had people coming in on and off. Didn't make any sense to me because you really didn't need a physical presence at the head office unless you maybe have a meeting once a week or something. Even so, we really should be forcing people to be using the technological tools available to them. You also had Sagicor with the same issue, and you go, you're an insurance company. I mean, apart from people who can't pay their premiums online, why do people need to be coming to work? So we're also now beginning to understand that not only do we need more businesses transitioning to a digital environment, but that they're unable to cope. They now need to get technocrats and the technical expertise to be able to do this. So it shows how far behind the economy as a whole is. And I think that's very important. I'm not sure in the Cayman Islands how it works, if most businesses have made a smooth transition to online, but I can tell you that here in Jamaica and in the smaller Caribbean islands, this is extremely difficult to do because it's a change that goes, there's no transition period, there's no testing phase. So we've just gone bam into Zoom meetings, bam into stuff. And as you would know, internet connectivity across the region is not as strong as it should be. And these are some of the issues that businesses are currently grappling with. These are the areas that Caribbean leaders really need to come together and start meeting and saying, listen, are we going to get in this technological space and have internet connectivity where it should be, building out more stuff like that, because that is what's really necessary to push the region forward. It's not just about telling people to socially distance, wear a mask, etc. It's also about recognizing that we aren't where we should be in terms of the economy that we need to have in order to live in a post-COVID-19 world. And I think those are important considerations that people need to consider, particularly businesses in a time like now. It's just imperative. We cannot continue to have businesses operating that don't have telephone numbers, that don't have a Facebook, that don't have email, that don't have non-physical ways of communicating with their base. We need to get to that place where most businesses are digital or can operate in the digital space. But this goes back to the problem of these vast people that are outside of the formal economy, and bringing them in will be difficult. And the government that is able to bring them in is going to be the government that gets the brownie points. I'm not sure what it's like in Cayman. Sandra, are you still there?
Yes, ma'am.
Sandra.
I'm listening intently. I'm totally listening. You
So
take it away, girl. I'm listening to you.
I wanted to find out from you also, is it that you have a lot of businesses in Cayman that are not in the formal economy? Okay, well, I guess we still.
I, can you hear me? I'm still here.
Yes. Okay.
I'm
You
not
just went
sure.
out for.
Tanika doesn't seem to be able to hear me. Hear me?
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah. So I'm still here. No, I was letting you speak because I think it's interesting to get this conversation from a different perspective, because we talked about it here, certainly in our program, in terms of how small businesses, medium businesses, even large organizations are adjusting to the whole COVID shutdown and what it has meant for them in terms of how they can make some technological changes to how they operate. And I think, like you said, it's like people are acting like Zoom has just been created and this is earth shattering. And they've all now just discovered it. So I was very keen to hear your perspective from another island nation. But Danika's indicated that she's got to get moving as well. As you guys know, we're all super busy here. But I did tell you guys in the onset of the program that I've got court this morning. So I need to run and get ready for court. And we'll have, some further discussions with Danica. Danica, I think we need to have you on more often because it's been a minute. And so I feel like we had so much stuff to try to catch up on today, but thank you.
I was afraid to come back. I didn't want the CMR army on Facebook to end me like they did the last time. Hi, guys. I've forgiven you, by the way.
So Danica had a rough start, but listen here. On Cayman Mall Road, we are not afraid of criticism. We're certainly not afraid of the cold hard truth. And I think that our viewers now know that we give it as good as we take it. So, or we take it as good as we give it, however you want to say that phrase. But yes, there's more to come. So listen, I didn't get into the discussion of child abuse in Cayman, which is our protest topic for today. But as you guys know, we have an evening segment. So we'll do that into the evening segment. We'll cover a couple of things that's going on. But I got to run because I want to be to court on time, folks. Don't want to be late. So by all means, thank you, Danica. We appreciate it. Irvelyn, Jade, the person with the Arabic writing for their name, Jess, Sue, all of you who participated in this morning's discussion. Thank you guys so much. We'll be back tonight. So tune in at 7 o'clock. Don't forget, there is a press conference at 2 p.m. We're pretty much going to tell you, I think, in this article that I'm about to publish here shortly, what's coming in the press conference so that you're going to be on the up and up. You're going to get it first. As you know, here at Cayman Mall Road, we're all about exclusives. We give you the tea before anybody else does, and it's always piping hot and delicious. So Irvelyn says all the best in court. Thank you. It's probably, like I said, I still don't have the documents. So it's probably just me saying, Your Honor, as usual, the DPP not doing their jobs. I have no documents, but I'm here to plead not guilty. So let's just keep it moving. So it is what it is. Beautiful Danica, thank you so much. Keep us posted on what's going on in Jamaica. We love your regional stories. Let me just say this. Danica holds the record for writing a story on CMR that has the most views ever. Now, I haven't checked it in the past week or two, but the last time I checked it, Danica's story had over 190,000, 190, and then add 3 more zeros after that, 190 something thousand views. That is crazy.
I've been known to write.
That story was trending like mad.
I've been known to write a lot of viral stories. I have in the past written The Secret Island Between Haiti and Jamaica. So I'm known to write viral content, but in today's world, viral is a bad thing, guys. I gotta run. Take care, Cayman.
Right.
Keep reading.
Thank you so much. So we'll be having you on again soon. Hallidy, thank you so much for joining in. Danica, have a good one. So folks, thank you guys so much again. I'll see you guys at 7 o'clock. I gotta run myself. So we all got things to do today. Keep it locked here to Cayman Mall Road. We'll stream the 2 p.m. press conference, and then I'll see you guys again at 7 p.m. to continue this morning's conversation, because sometimes we just literally run out of time. So bye for now, guys, and I'll talk to you later.
Thank you for tuning in to another edition of The Cold Hard Truth. Make sure to check Facebook for showtimes and more information and the latest news at CaymanMarlRoad.com. Subscribe to our IG and Facebook pages to get the latest happenings.